Here we are again, another Rando pod, number 2. And I thought I would talk about Star Wars. The Star Wars or your Star Wars? So, a long time ago in a galaxy, actually in a movie industry far, far away, there were so many different movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey. There were was it crime movies like French Connection. There was The French Connection, there was Earthquake, there was Jaws, there was all kinds of movies, but nothing. I mean, you thought about Fantastic Voyage, where people were shrunk to the size of like fleas and went into a person's body. All those Irwin Allen movies. Now, Irwin Allen is not known these days, but Irwin Allen was the guy who would make a picture. You got to make a picture. That Towering Inferno, and what's the other ones? The Poseidon Adventure. You got to make a picture. And then a man named George Lucas came along. Now, he had rough ideas for what he wanted, but he came up with American Graffiti. He had THX 1138. That was a student film at first, and then he made a full-fledged movie with, I think, Robert Duvall. And then came the Star Wars, but it was called the Star Wars at the beginning. So you had a prototype Star Wars in which you would have the Death Star, only one Death Star at the very end, but it was such a long movie and nobody really liked it. Nobody gave a shit about this, right? Then this movie came out, A New Hope, which was like not called A New Hope back then, but this was the ing that changed everybody's liking to movies. Now, no longer about Citizen Kane or Marlon Brando or Bing Crosby or any of those. None of those. Humphrey Bogart, nada. Nobody cared about those movies. Musicals, West Side Story or East Side, I don't know what it's called. East Side Story or Humphrey Bogart or Orson Welles. None of that stuff. Now it's about Star Wars. But then something happened, right? They made 2 more movies. You got Empire, right? Which was very iconic. And then that split the base a bit. So the big movie that was there, you had the number 2 movie, which Irvin Kershner didn't want to even direct because he thought it would be just a sequel. But it was a cliffhanger, right? So you had a fan base that might have been split. They didn't like this movie, but they liked this movie. Over time, as Ben Burt said, it would get that fan attention. Then it came, of course, you had to conclude the trilogy with Return of the Jedi, which is probably the least favorite among people, but you had a division of fans. So you had fans divided. They might have liked the first 2 movies and then didn't like the third one. They might have liked Empire only and not like the other 2. It was already divided. Then to really divide the fan base, you had the prequels, people who liked the prequels. Some people really didn't like this one. Some people liked this one more, hated this one more. I kind of liked this one the least. But of course, a lot of people did enjoy this one. And some people didn't because they still didn't like the quote-unquote wooden acting. It was a really divided time. And then came the Clone Wars, which I think is the best Star Wars that I could see on media, next to my favorite comic books, Star Wars Legacy. And you get a sense of like a really giant world, a really giant universe. But I still think this is some of my favorite Star Wars. And it divided the fan base. Like, should there be cartoons? Should it just be not the 6 movies or just the 3 movies? Or maybe just the 1 movie? Then you had Star Wars Legacy, which had which are all legends now. Cade Skywalker, which one of my favorites. And even this one's starting to grow on me too, Ania Solo. Does not Ania Solo look like Felicity Jones? What were the writers and artists, what were they thinking back then? Did they know the future? Now, what came afterwards, after Disney bought Star Wars, after George Lucas, the big idiot, sold it to the one group that you could never trust, and Kathleen Kennedy. You had some good projects by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and you had some really shitty projects. Now, Resistance, I have my reservations, but I think it might be all right. But after the movies, which were shit, after the sequels and the Solo, Rogue One's okay, because you got Ania Solo, Jyn Erso in it. And then you got some shows, like The Mandalorian could have been an easy loss, because it was starring a character you didn't know about. But then came Baby Yoda, Grogu, and that was all right. And then you had the Book of Boba Fett, which was a mixed bag. And then this one. And let me tell you, when I saw clips, I saw some clips. I saw some preview clips and other things. I said, this show did not need to do it. It did not need to exist. It did not need to be here. We didn't need to see this chapter. We didn't need to see any of it. This wasn't necessary. Right now, I'm reading the Ania Solo Star Wars Legacy 2, and I'm more engaged in that than watching 5 minutes of this show. Ania Solo is more engaging than Rey Skywalker and Reva combined. I don't care about skin color. And you know what? The galaxy far, far away doesn't care about skin color either. We've got, on Naboo, you've got humans versus Gungans, okay? You've got an orange Gungan that is Jar Jar Binks. You've got a tan and pink Gungan called Tarpals, his friend. And then you got a big fat green Gungan, which is Boss Nass, right? That makes sense, right? And then you've got different colors of Togrutas. You've got Zabraks. Some Zabraks are brown. Some Zabraks are orange. Some Zabraks are red. It doesn't fucking matter. Why are we assigning Earth, solar system, skin color prejudices to another galaxy? What are we doing that for? Who are we doing that for? Now, I don't care about appeasing any right-wing groups that includes Geeks and Gamers or Nerdrotic or anybody else, okay? But I also don't want to see bullshit. Don't give somebody a prize for what they look like. Make somebody interesting, right? Because I guarantee you right now, Dr. Aphra and Ania Solo are way more interesting than this, okay? I would rather see I think if a Dr. Aphra series was on Disney Plus, I think people would tune into that. But no, we get this. I'm sure Dr. Aphra will show up somewhere. She's got to show up somewhere. Give her a cameo, she probably wouldn't do much. And where they killed off Wade in this show that people liked, you're killing off the good characters. What's going on? So, no, I don't think this series is done very well. And so you ask the question, what is your Star Wars? Because it's no longer the Star Wars. Some people would just write this series off and say, fuck this. Obi-Wan Kenobi never met Vader until 18, 19 years later. This never happened. If anybody asks, this never happened. The Darth Plagueis novel is canon. I don't give a shit what Pablo Hidalgo did. The 6 movies are canon, and the Clone Wars happened, and these Dark Horse comics happened, so fuck all this other stuff. It's like now people are just not sure anymore. They're not sure what to think, but they know that their Star Wars is ruined. They don't want to even acknowledge the prequels. I mean, one person on YouTube doesn't like Jar Jar Binks. I like Jar Jar Binks, and I like the prequels for what they are. I like the 6 movies because one set of movies is different from the other set of movies, like separated by decades of work and technology and culture. And you get somebody from the 70s who can act, and you get somebody from the 90s and 2000s who can act, and you get different colors, different vibes. Because obviously the prequels had much more color, cartoon graphics, as opposed to the originals, which George Lucas changed, but that was his decision. But it was George Lucas's baby, and I think in the end, he should have, like Jerry Buss, he should have just given it to his kids. Let his kids figure it out. Give it to a corporation, and they'll pity the black person. They'll pity the Chicano. I don't try to pity anybody. I said, if you can do it, do it. If you can't, you can't. But I also don't give negative. I mean, if you're trying to make fun of black characters by killing them off all the time, then it does seem racist too. So there's a little bit of left that I feel. And in the end, I think that what your Star Wars is, what anybody's Star Wars is it's what you choose it to be now. Like, I see the 6 movies and the Clone Wars and the Darth Plagueis novel and maybe Star Wars Legacy as the only Star Wars I care about. I don't care about Solo. I don't care about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't even care about The Mandalorian. And I don't care about the Book of Boba Fett. And I probably don't even care about Resistance, but I'll give Resistance a watch. I hear that at the end, a character, a black female, not Reva, turns to the First Order because she was pushed away. That sounds interesting. That's something different. I want to see different. I want to see better and different, and we're not getting that. So, no, I just go back and just read other stuff. I got 20,000 other fictions I can go and read. I'm watching The Boys on DVD. I don't need this. So, with that, I hope you find your Star Wars, and if not, there's always The Godfather.